Okay, let's have a look at year 2. Now this is share appreciation rights. Because it's share appreciation rights, we do need to know the value of the share appreciation right at the year end, and at the year end that is 15. You are effectively giving this a 3,000 bonus, because now it's worth $15 and you're giving 200, it's a $3,000 per head. Now, our current estimate of the numbers we think are going to qualify is going to be 100% correct, because we're now at the end of year 2, we're at the vesting date. The way the information was worded, we had 100 employees, but 10 of them have left. So we're only going to pay out $3,000 to 90 people. That's the extent of our liability. And we completed the process. We completed the process. So on that basis, the amount of the liability, our year-end liability, is 3,000? 90% of 3,000? No, 90% of 300,000, sorry. 270,000? So our year-end liability is 270. Once you've got 270, you've finished. How much are you charging this year? I need a liability of 270. I already have a liability of 100. And therefore, on that basis, I have the expense. Yeah? My P&L expense for year 2 represents the increase in the liability. Share appreciation rights. They're non-cash expenses. So like depreciation, like current service costs, like impairment losses, they are non-cash expenses, so they'll be added back in your cash flow. Your P&L expense is 170. Ladies and gentlemen, share appreciation rights, yeah, is a small part of IFRS 2. Yeah, covered it. Going. Yeah, go on. You know, there's another example there that you can do for homework. Parrot. Yeah, you know, on page 50. Yeah, so you can follow that up. Parrot. Yeah, page 50. And then you know that you're home and dry. Okay. Right, next topic is going to take about the same length of time. In other words, it's a quick little, 10-15 minute story. And the next topic involves us going back in time a little bit. I want us to look at events after the reporting date. And this is something that is on page 40. So IAS 10, events after the reporting period. Yes.
Okay, we have two methods. The previous method for the previous class. Okay, any further value on the third option, we split, right? We still maintain the old one. Then we only create the new one as a new. The additional only then we add a multiplication. But for this new cash settle, increase by 5, I need to split, right? Maintain 10.5 or straight I can use 15.
With equity settled share-based payments, the value is based on the grant date. So whatever happens to the value of the option, you must continue to charge. If we give them an extra value, then that creates an extra expense. What you would have with cash settled share-based payments is that your value is constantly changing. So if actually the share price dives, then you write it back again and there's no liability. Yeah? So if you do give them another system, then again it would work in a similar way. You would give them an extra cost. But you're always basing it on the value for share appreciation rights on the fair value at the year end. But options, it's fair value at the grant date, which gives you that twist. I hope in the next 10 minutes I don't teach you anything. Because I hope that you have done post-balance sheet events, events after the reporting period, at F7, at F8, and I hope that you are all over it. So this, ideally, is a little bit of gentle revision. Am I expecting a question on events in the exam? No, I'm not. But it does crop up from time to time for a couple of marks, and these are the easy marks that we should be getting. If I'm going too quickly, well, most of us, I hope, are going to be coping with me going too quickly. You have a financial reporting year end. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it a calendar year. The auditors come in, and here the accounts are signed off. What is this period of time? Days, weeks, or months? Months. 2, 3, 4 months. So what you've got at the reporting date, what you've got here when the accounts are signed off, yeah, here the accounts are signed off, this is several months. And it is this period where events happen. Now, these events that happen, they're either adjusting events, or they are non-adjusting events. Now, these days, with computers, with spreadsheets, with computer packages, actually, I think we've probably got a draft set of accounts in the first week of Jan. You probably know, roughly, what your financial statements look like, but you can't get them signed by the directors until the auditor comes in and does a double check. And in the meantime, lots of things happen in this period of, I'm going to call it Jan-Feb. Things happen here. Now, sometimes they are adjusting, and sometimes they are non-adjusting. The name gives it away. If it is an adjusting event, it quite literally means you change the numbers. Because until the accounts are signed off, they're in draft. And whilst they're in draft, they can be changed. Once they're signed off, they're a PDF. Once they're signed off, they're published. Once they're signed off, it's too late. But here, you can change them. Now, the reason you would change them is because something happens in the month of Jan-Feb which gives you better information about conditions existing at the year end. There's a clarity, there's a confirmation, there's a deeper understanding. So it's an adjusting event because it gives additional information. It gives additional information about conditions at the reporting date. So it clarifies our understanding, it clarifies the situation of the conditions existing at the year end, and therefore debit and credit, therefore change the accounts. You physically alter the figures. So therefore you debit, therefore you credit, you make the alteration. A simple classic example is the discovery of error. A simple classic example is the discovery of error, is the discovery of fraud. If during the year you bought a painting, or if during the year you bought an investment, the auditor in January or February may ask to see the painting or may ask to see the share certificate. If they see the certificate and realise it's a forgery, if they see the painting and realise it's a forgery, you were conned, not in Jan, Feb, but you were previously conned, so that asset that appears in the draft accounts now needs to disappear because it is worthless. So if you discover error or fraud, that is a classic example of an adjusting event. That's all I have to say. Non-adjusting events are other. So they're everything else that doesn't provide additional information existing at the year end. So clearly, if it's not adjusting, you don't adjust. If it's really important and significant, then maybe make a note about it. But, you know, I'm not really bothered about non-adjusting events because I don't adjust. So non-adjusting events are other. Non-adjusting events are other. You might disclose if you felt they were necessary to give a true and fair view, if they were material, I don't know, if you buy a sub. You might buy a sub in the month of January. Well, you can't then turn round and put the goodwill and consolidate it at the 31st of December because you didn't control it then. So clearly it's non-adjusting. But you might just tell your shareholders, you know, a few days after we did this balance sheet, we spent all the money, yeah, and we bought another business. So it helps them basically understand. Page 42. Page 42.